The Galactic War had raged across the cosmos for over 2 decades, leaving scars on countless planets and their inhabitants. Earth had emerged victorious, but at a great cost. The once thriving Terran colonies lay in ruins, and the soldiers who survived bore not only physical wounds but the weight of memories too dark to share. Captain Elias Ward, a decorated veteran, had been one of the war's most celebrated heroes. After the final battle on Zenthari Prime, Elias decided to retire, hoping to find peace on one of the outer colonies. He bought a modest farm on Vega 3, far from the chaos of galactic politics. It was there, amidst the rolling hills and quiet skies, that he intended to heal. But fate had other plans. One evening, as Elias wandered through the bustling markets of Vega 3's capital, a loud auctioneer's voice caught his attention. Behold! The rarest prize of the war. A genuine Zenthari. Elias's stomach churned. The Zenthari were the alien race that had led the coalition against humanity. Known for their beauty, intellect, and telepathic abilities, they had been demonized during the war. Now, with their empire in shambles, many had been captured and enslaved, their dignity stripped away. Curiosity, or perhaps guilt, drew him to the crowd. On a raised platform stood a young Zenthari woman. Her silver hair cascaded down her back, and her violet eyes glimmered with defiance despite the shackles binding her wrists. She wore a simple tunic, but her regal bearing made it look like a queen's attire. This one's a fighter, the auctioneer boomed. But with the right training, she'll make a fine servant. Elias clenched his fists. The thought of anyone training her made his blood boil. Before he knew it, he was raising his hand. 10,000 credits. The crowd murmured in astonishment. It was an absurd sum for a slave. But no one dared outbid a former captain of the Terran fleet. The auctioneer banged his gavel. Sold to the captain. Elias brought her home, unsure of what he had just done. She sat silently in the passenger seat of his hovercraft, her gaze fixed on the horizon. When they reached the farm, he unlocked her shackles. "You're free to go," he said, stepping back. "I won't stop you." She stared at him, her violet eyes narrowing. "Is this some kind of trick, human?" Her voice was melodic but carried an edge of mistrust. "No trick," Elias replied. "I don't believe in slavery. You can stay here if you want, but only as an equal. My name's Elias." She hesitated before speaking. "My name is Lyra." The first few weeks were tense. Lyra kept her distance, suspicious of Elias's intentions. She helped around the farm, tending to the crops and repairing equipment with a skill that surprised him. Gradually, their guarded conversations grew into genuine exchanges. Lyra shared stories of her homeworld, a lush paradise that had been reduced to ashes during the war. She spoke of her people's philosophy, their deep connection to the cosmos, and their belief in harmony, values that humanity had misunderstood as weakness. Elias, in turn, confessed his regrets. He spoke of the atrocities he had witnessed, the friends he had lost, and the guilt that haunted him. "I fought because I was told it was right," he admitted one night as they sat by the fire. "But now I wonder if we were the villains all along." Lyra studied him, her eyes softening. "Perhaps both our peoples were victims of fear and pride," she said. "But what matters is what we choose to do now." As the months passed, Elias and Lyra developed a bond deeper than friendship. They worked side by side, building a life together. Lyra's telepathic abilities began to manifest subtly, allowing her to sense Elias's emotions. She used this gift not to intrude but to comfort, to heal. The small community on Vega 3 was less welcoming. Whispers about the Zenthari slave spread, and some neighbors openly questioned Elias's judgment. When a group of locals confronted him in town, demanding he hand Lyra over to the authorities, Elias stood his ground. "She's not my property," he said firmly. "She's my partner. And if anyone lays a hand on her, They'll answer to me. Word of his defiance spread, and though it earned him enemies, it also inspired others to reconsider their prejudices. One day, a Zenthari resistance leader arrived at the farm. He had heard of Lyra and sought her help in rebuilding their shattered civilization. Lyra was torn. She yearned to help her people but had found a new home with Elias. "What do you want to do?" Elias asked, his voice steady despite the ache in his chest. Lyra's gaze met his. "I want to stand by your side," she said. "But I cannot turn my back on my people." Elias nodded. "Then we'll go together." The decision marked the start of a new chapter. Elias sold the farm, and together they joined the effort to rebuild Zenthara. Elias used his military experience to train Zenthari defenders, while Lyra worked to unite the scattered remnants of her people. Their partnership became a symbol of hope, proving that unity was possible even between former enemies. Over time, their bond deepened into love, a love forged in the fires of war but tempered by mutual respect and understanding. Years later, after Zenthara had begun to thrive once more, Elias and Lyra stood before a gathering of Zenthari and humans. They addressed the crowd together, sharing their journey and the lessons they had learned. "We fought each other because we were afraid of our differences," Lyra said. "But in the end, those differences made us stronger." Elias took her hand, his voice steady and firm. "The war taught us how easy it is to destroy. But rebuilding, that takes courage, trust, and love. Let's ensure this alliance lasts for generations." The crowd erupted into applause, a mix of cheers and tears. The once divided species now stood together, united by a shared vision of peace. As the celebration continued, Elias and Lyra retreated to a quiet hill overlooking the city. The stars above shone brighter than ever, a reminder of how vast the universe was and how small yet significant their efforts had been. "Do you think they'll keep the peace?" Elias asked. Lyra leaned against him, her silver hair catching the starlight. "They have to. We've shown them it's possible." Elias wrapped his arm around her, the weight of the past finally lifting. Together, they gazed at the horizon, knowing that while their journey had ended, their legacy would endure for generations.